What if your best orgasms are still ahead of you? Not behind you, not in your 30s, ahead of you, starting this month. Most women over 60 have never heard that sentence directed at them. Today, I'm going to show you why it's true and exactly what to do about it. Here's what I'm going to walk you through. A 4-week, step-by-step protocol designed specifically for women over 60 who want stronger, more satisfying orgasms. Not tips, not vague suggestions. A real protocol with real biology behind it and a clear week-by-week timeline. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to start this week and what to expect over the following month. But first, there's something I need to explain. Because without understanding one specific thing that changes in your body after menopause, none of the protocol makes complete sense. And once you understand it, everything I'm about to show you clicks into place immediately. I want to tell you about a woman I'll call Frances. Frances is 61. She's been with her partner for 23 years. Their relationship is close. She enjoys intimacy. But something has shifted over the past few years that she hasn't found a way to name out loud. The experience is there. The connection is there. But the intensity, that peak moment she used to be able to reach reliably, has become harder to find. Sometimes it arrives and feels muted. Sometimes it takes much longer than it used to. Sometimes it doesn't arrive at all, even when everything else feels right. She told me, I started timing how long it takes and then I felt ridiculous doing that. So I just stopped focusing on it and started pretending it didn't matter. But it does matter to me. It always did. Frances hasn't told her partner this. She mentioned it to her doctor once, very briefly, and the response was a gentle nod and a pivot to something else. She walked out of that appointment with no information, and a quiet sense that the door had been closed politely. She just quietly accepted it as the end of something, without knowing that she was standing at the beginning of something she had never tried. If that sounds familiar, hit subscribe right now because this is exactly the information that belongs in this conversation. You haven't lost this. You just haven't had the right protocol yet. So, what is the one thing I mentioned that you need to understand first? It's a molecule called nitric oxide. And once you know what it does, everything else in this protocol will make perfect sense. Nitric oxide is produced by the walls of your blood vessels. Its job is to signal those vessels to relax and widen. When they widen, blood flows through more freely and in greater volume. Think of it like turning a tap from halfway to fully open. The water was always there. The pipe was always there. But the flow is completely different. During sexual arousal, nitric oxide production increases rapidly in the pelvic region. This flood of blood is what causes the clitoris to engorge, the vaginal walls to swell and become sensitized, and the natural lubrication process to activate. More blood flow means more sensation. More sensation means faster, stronger, more reliable arousal and orgasm. After menopause, research consistently shows that nitric oxide production in blood vessel walls declines as part of the broader vascular aging process. The vessels don't relax as freely or as quickly. Blood flow to the pelvic region during arousal is reduced compared to younger years. The tissue is still there. The nerve endings are still there. The capacity is absolutely still there. But the signal that gets everything moving has been turned down. That's the root of what most women experience. And it is very specifically, very practically addressable, starting in week 1. The 4-week protocol I'm going to share with you works by addressing nitric oxide production and pelvic blood flow through nutrition, circulation, specific physical practice, and one often overlooked element of the nervous system. Each week builds on the last. Here's the full plan. Week 1. Build the nutritional foundation. In the first week, the focus is on giving your body the raw materials it needs to produce nitric oxide more effectively. The most important dietary shift you can make is adding nitrate-rich vegetable to your meals every day. Dark, leafy greens, particularly spinach, arugula, and beetroot, are among the most concentrated natural sources of dietary nitrates. Your body converts these nitrates into nitric oxide through a specific pathway that involves bacteria in your saliva. This is why mouthwash used immediately before eating can actually block this conversion. Use it after meals, not before. A practical daily target: 1 large handful of arugula or spinach in a meal, or half a medium beetroot, juiced or roasted. This doesn't require a dramatic dietary overhaul. It requires making 1 addition a day, consistently. Consistency over the full week is what matters, not perfection on any single day. From a supplement perspective, functional medicine commonly discusses 2 compounds in conversations about nitric oxide support. The first is L-arginine, an amino acid your body uses as a direct precursor to nitric oxide. Educational ranges discussed in functional medicine contexts often start from around 2 to 3 grams daily for general cardiovascular and circulatory support, always subject to individual circumstances and reviewed with a physician. The second is L-citrulline, which your body converts into L-arginine more efficiently than arginine taken directly. Many practitioners discuss L-citrulline at similar or slightly lower educational ranges. Watermelon is actually one of the richest natural dietary sources of citrulline. Both of these are general educational starting points only. Discuss any supplementation with your doctor, particularly if you take blood pressure medication, as these compounds affect circulation. The goal of week 1 is not dramatic change. It is laying the nutritional groundwork so that weeks 2 through 4 have something to build on. You are preparing the system, not yet activating it. Week 2. Activate circulation with physical practice. By week 2, you add a specific daily physical practice targeting pelvic blood flow. This is not standard Kegel exercises. In fact, if your pelvic floor muscles are already tight, which is common after menopause, traditional Kegels can add tension to tissue that needs to relax and receive blood, not contract further. The practice for week 2 is a combination of 2 things. First, 10 to 15 minutes of brisk walking or light cycling daily. Not for fitness broadly, but specifically because rhythmic lower body movement is one of the most effective ways to drive blood circulation into the pelvic region. Second, after that movement, 5 minutes of deliberate pelvic relaxation. Lie down. Let your legs fall open slightly. Breathe slowly and consciously release any tension in the pelvic floor with each exhale. The goal is not contraction. The goal is arrival of blood to tissue that is open and receiving. This combination, movement followed by deliberate relaxation, creates a pump and receive effect that directly increases tissue responsiveness over time. Most women notice a meaningful difference in sensitivity by the end of week 2. Week 3. Add targeted nutritional support for the tissue and nerve health. In week 3, you layer in 2 additional nutritional elements that support the tissue itself and the nervous system pathways involved in orgasm. The first is omega-3 fatty acids. We've covered omega-3s in other videos on this channel for their role in the lipid barrier. Here, the relevant benefit is different. Omega-3s reduce systemic inflammation, and inflammation in blood vessel walls is one of the factors that impairs nitric oxide production. Inflamed vessel walls don't respond as freely to nitric oxide signals. They stay partially constricted even when the signal is there. Reducing that background inflammation allows the vessels to respond more fully to the nitric oxide you've been building through weeks 1 and 2. Functional medicine commonly discusses 1 to 3 grams of combined EPA and DHA daily as a general educational range, reviewed with a physician. Fatty fish 3 or more times a week provides meaningful dietary support for this. The second is vitamin E. Applied topically to the vulvar and vaginal area, vitamin E has documented effects on tissue comfort and sensitivity. Some research has looked specifically at topical vitamin E in postmenopausal women, for effects on mucosal tissue health and elasticity. Taken orally, vitamin E functions as an antioxidant that protects blood vessel walls from oxidative damage, the same walls through which nitric oxide needs to travel freely. Functional medicine often discusses oral ranges of 200 to 400 IU daily as an educational starting point, always reviewed with a doctor. By the end of week 3, women consistently report that sensations feel more present and accessible than they did at the start of the protocol. The tissue is better nourished. The vessels are more responsive. The nervous system is starting to trust the process. Not finished. Building steadily. Week 4. Address the nervous system layer. This is the week most protocols skip entirely, and it's often the most impactful one. And I want to explain clearly why, because without this piece, weeks 1 through 3 can build all the right physical conditions and still fall short. Orgasm involves 2 distinct systems working together. The vascular system, which we've been building for 3 weeks, and the nervous system, specifically the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for arousal and the orgasmic response. The parasympathetic nervous system operates best in a state of felt safety and genuine relaxation, not performed relaxation, actual, embodied ease. Chronic low-level stress, which many women over 60 carry simply from decades of putting everyone else first, keeps the sympathetic nervous system partially activated even in moments of intimacy. It doesn't feel like stress. It just feels like the peak is never quite reachable, like there's always a thin membrane between you and where you're trying to get. That membrane is often a partially activated stress response, and it acts like a quiet brake on the arousal pathway. Week 4 adds one specific daily practice for this. 5 to 10 minutes of deliberate, diaphragmatic breathing before any intimate encounter or self-exploration. Slow inhale for 4 counts, hold for 2, exhale for 6. The extended exhale is the key part. A longer exhale than inhale directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system through the vagus nerve. Done consistently for a week, and especially done in the moments before intimacy, it removes the brake most women don't even know they're carrying. The second element of week 4 is direction. Small, real-time guidance toward what actually works for your body now. Your body's arousal map may have shifted. The clitoris becomes more externally accessible after menopause for some women as internal tissue changes. Angles and pressure that were less relevant before may be more relevant now. You don't need a long conversation. You need small, honest signals in the moment. Slower. There. Softer. Stay there. 4 words. Complete information. Permission to say them is what week 4 is really about. Let's go back to Frances. By the end of her 4th week with this protocol, she told me something she hadn't expected to say. She said, "I thought I was trying to get back to something, but I didn't get back to anything. I got somewhere I hadn't been before." The nitrate-rich diet had become normal. She was adding arugula to almost everything and had discovered she actually liked beetroot roasted with olive oil. The daily walk, followed by deliberate pelvic relaxation, had become something she looked forward to, not as a medical exercise, but as 10 minutes that were simply hers. The breathing practice before intimacy felt like switching a light on rather than waiting for one to flicker on by itself. And the small directional words with her partner, which had felt embarrassing to try the first time, had opened something between them that years of silence had quietly closed. She didn't recover something lost. She built something new, with better tools than she had ever had before, and a clearer understanding of her own body than she had possessed at any earlier point in her life. Before you start, let me mention 2 things that quietly derail this protocol even when women are doing everything else right. First, trying all 4 weeks at once instead of building sequentially. The protocol is designed to be cumulative. Week 1 creates the conditions for week 2 to work. Skipping ahead produces weaker results. Go in order. Second, stopping after 1 or 2 weeks because change feels slow. The nervous system changes in week 4 are often what produce the most significant shift, and they require the vascular foundation from weeks 1 through 3 to land properly. Give all 4 weeks their full time. So here's what I want you to do right now. Start with week 1, just week 1. Add dark leafy greens and beetroot to your meals daily this week. That single dietary shift begins the nitric oxide foundation everything else builds on. Leave a comment telling me which week you're starting this week. And if you know a woman over 60 who has quietly accepted less pleasure than she deserves, share this video with her. Because this conversation should be happening everywhere, and it almost never is. Subscribe for more honest, practical conversations like this one. I'll see you in the next video.